Welcome to our new time. We thought that maybe an afternoon time slot would be better for everybody to get some health and wellness tips. So I appreciate you being here. And today I want to talk about a new term I learned last week called Coronasomnia. I also learned Corona Coaster, which I loved, which I think is what everyone is experiencing, which is a total roller coaster of emotions, right? Happy, sad, angry, grateful, all of the above. But coronasomnia is something we're going to talk about today, which is really important because it's related to our sleep. And I know I've been talking about sleep a lot lately. I believe we had a live maybe a month or so ago where we talked about sleep. But I wanted to bring it up again because I think it's always been a problem. It's more of a problem now, and it's something that is really important to our health and well-being, and something that we tend to not pay as much attention to as we should. So even before all this started, the pandemic started, lack of sleep was a major public health problem. So the statistics show that up to 15% of people have chronic insomnia, which is defined as the difficulty or inability to stay asleep for at least 3 nights a week, and it needs to go on for about 3 months or longer. But even if you don't fit those like strict criteria for having chronic insomnia, many of us suffer from sleep issues, and the numbers actually are up to 38% of Americans report inadequate or insufficient sleep. And that, of course, that number increases as you age. So older people have more difficulty with sleep. But even in age groups of the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, the data or the numbers are about 1/3 of Americans suffering from sleep insufficiency. And so now, of course, with all of the pandemic worries and concerns and changes in our lives and rituals, that number has even increased more, coining this term by experts as coronasomnia, and really being a very important topic to us doctors and for us to discuss with our patients, because sleep insufficiency really has a negative impact on our health. So why is sleep so important? Well, it goes without saying that sleep is essential to restoring our body. It's not shutting down. So when we sleep, we're not actually shutting down, but we're actually restoring our body. And it's necessary and needed for muscle repair, regulating growth hormones and appetite hormones. It's important for memory consolidation. So REM sleep is a time where we take our experiences throughout the day, what we've learned throughout the day, and we consolidate it into our memory. And so it really is a time when our bodies are restoring itself. And chronic insomnia is going to result in kind of system breakdown because we don't have that restoration. I just wanted to check something. Okay, sorry about that. So how much sleep do we actually need? The amount of sleep that we need goes down with age, obviously. So infants need immense amount of sleep, up to 16 hours a day for infants, even more for newborns. For our school-age children, the recommendations are 9 to 12 hours of sleep. So there's still quite a bit of a range, and I would err on the side of 10 to 12 hours myself for the school-age kids. Our teens require or need at least 8 hours, preferably 10 hours of sleep. And by the time you reach adulthood, the minimum amount of sleep is 7 hours, preferably 8. So any amount of sleep that drops underneath that 7 hour a night of uninterrupted sleep time mark is really unhealthy and detrimental to your health. So what happens when we don't get enough sleep? Number one, our mood suffers, right? So that is a given and well known that when people don't sleep, there's more an increased risk of depression, there's more anxiety, there's more irritability. People tend to not be able to respond to stressors as well, and not be able to function. And I have definitely friends who say that they absolutely cannot function at all if they get, if they have one night of sleep deprivation. And maybe you're like that too. Even one night will start to affect your mood and your functioning. We also know that cognition is impaired. So there are so many studies where they have sleep deprived individuals and then given them cognitive tests and have shown that, of course, their thinking, processing, mental acuity, all these different aspects of cognition are reduced. And in fact, when they've done studies in like entrepreneurs, for example, and in the workplace, they've shown that sleep deprivation really affects the quality of the work, quality of production. So it reduces productivity and it reduces creativity. So for those of us who sometimes err on the side of staying up later to get more work done, we actually are paying for it and not being as sharp, as acute, and having the same degree of productivity that we otherwise would. So, and on top of that, we're annoyed and irritable. So another plug for getting sleep instead of kind of pushing through and staying awake. What people may not know, though, is how it affects metabolic function. And actually, sleep is very much related to our homeostasis, or basically that balance in our bodies. And when people are sleep deprived, then it in fact also affects their ability to manage their blood sugar. People will develop insulin resistance with as little as 2 days or 2 nights of sleep deprivation. So within 2 nights, insulin already starts to get messed up in something that we medically call insulin resistance, and affects, or can start to affect, your blood sugar. If that goes on for a prolonged period of time, then your insulin ability or capability to manage blood sugar is really going to decline, and then people will develop overt type 2 diabetes. So something that's really important for blood sugar and glucose metabolism. It's also really important for energy homeostasis. And a very interesting thing happens when people's sleep starts to decline. We know that our hunger is very much managed by gut hormones. So when we eat, our stomachs release hormones that signal to our brain whether we're hungry or not. Our intestines will signal hormones to our brain telling us that we're full, which is so important that we should chew slowly and give our bodies time to process that food, because it does take about 15-20 minutes for the food to go down and to signal those receptors in the intestine that then signal the brain to tell you you're full. So anyway, there is a very complex, intricate system that helps the body know that you're full and that you have adequate food or fuel, and helps maintain your energy homeostasis. The studies show that within 2 nights, again, of sleep deprivation, our hunger hormones are thrown out of whack. The stomach hormone that tells us we're full, drops by 30%. I'm sorry, the hunger hormone that tells us we're hungry goes up. The intestinal hormone that tells us we're full drops by 30%. All of these changes are moving us into more hunger, and more hunger for kind of fattier foods, high calorie dense and sugary foods. So when they survey people after they've been sleep deprived and ask them, not only are you hungry or not, and they say, yes, I'm more hungry, then they ask, what is it that you're hungry for? And people tend to be hungrier for those sugary and calorie dense foods, fatty foods. So definitely sleep is going to affect your metabolic function, metabolism, and energy homeostasis. And then finally, we know that sleep also compromises our immune system. So our immune system is also a very complex, intricate system that helps keep our bodies healthy and free from infection. Our immune system is also important when a virus or a bacteria invades the bloodstream or invades the body in proliferating white blood cells or immune cells that help gobble up those bacteria, releasing cytokines or these hormones that help to kill off these bacteria and viruses. So there's a lot that's happening in our immune system. And we know that when people are sleep deprived, then on every level, the immune response is compromised. So you don't develop white blood cells, you don't mount the response, the inflammatory response against the infection, and are unable or not as able to get rid of the infection should you get a bacteria or a virus. So, on so many levels, sleep is so important to us right now, to our metabolic health, to our mood, which is already suffering Corona coaster, right? As well as to our immunity, which is so important right now. So what are we to do? Because, chances are 30 to 40% of people, myself included, were suffering some degree of sleep deprivation before all hell broke loose. So now, with what's going on right now, those numbers we suspect are likely higher. And just in my own personal experience and anecdotal experience speaking to my patients, I know that number is higher. I know that people are experiencing, I know that people are experiencing more sleep deprivation and insomnia. So the first thing is easy, I guess, but one thing that has really suffered, which is developing a healthy routine. So with all the changes that have occurred in our lives, routine is something that has really fallen by the wayside and is really important for our sleep. So create a healthy bedtime routine or ritual. Maybe you want to write in a journal. Maybe you want to take a warm bath. Maybe you want to do some mindfulness meditation that has other benefits to sleep. Maybe you want to drink a hot herbal tea. Some kind of ritual that signals relaxation and signals time for sleep. The second tip is to limit screen time. So our screens are giving us lots of light, and that light is stimulating our hypothalamus of our brain and affecting melatonin levels, which ultimately affects our ability to fall asleep. Part of what helps us sleep is a normal circadian rhythm, which is dependent on light and dark. And that darkness helps us get into a restful state and helps promote sleep. So if you have a screen, if you are watching TV or if you're scrolling your feed right before bedtime, then that is going to stimulate those parts of the brain that need to not be stimulated, need to be shut off, and need to have darkness in order to help promote sleep. So the recommendations are to really put aside your screens at least 2 hours, or preferably 2 hours before bedtime. I know that's super hard to do. It's super hard for me to do, but at least 1 hour before bedtime, I recommend people shutting off all screens. More importantly is that often what we're seeing on those screens, whether it's news or social media, is stimulating in a negative way or just stimulating, even if it's in a positive way. And again, we want to minimize stimulation right before bedtime. Those are all parts of, good sleep hygiene. Other things are really reserving the bed for bed. So not bringing in your laptop or work or other things into your bed, because then you begin to associate bedtime with other things like work when you really should be associating it with sleep. Substances, so like caffeine. Caffeine is great for waking you up, and there's benefits to caffeine as far as like actually cancer and cardiovascular risk reduction. Caffeine sometimes gets a bad rap, but it's actually okay. It's good. It can be good for you in small quantities, but really nothing past 12 noon. I recommend the caffeine be drunk or drank in the morning and not out in the afternoon, because that is going to affect your sleep. Exercise is great for helping bring back about like exhaustion and help tiring out the body, but exercise should be done closer to the morning, because for some people exercising at night can also be too stimulating. And then alcohol. So alcohol is both a depressant and it's a stimulant. So what it does is the depressant effects happen immediately. So I know when I have my glass of wine, I'm feeling sleepy soon. But then after that sedating effect kicks in, there's a stimulating effect. And so people who consume too much alcohol may find that they'll fall asleep super fast, but then wake up a couple hours later, tossing, turning, tossing, turning. So alcohol is also a consideration in proper sleep hygiene. And then finally, and this goes along with creating a ritual around sleep, is mindfulness meditation. So mindfulness meditation is a practice that has many, many health benefits, one of which is helping enhance sleep. Not necessarily by making people fall asleep right away, although that can happen, but also by bringing about a sense of ease and well-being, also by helping people to clear their mind of thoughts and emotions, which is critical to bringing about sleep. A lot of times people are suffering insomnia or having trouble sleeping because their minds are racing, right? Our minds are racing. We're thinking about what we accomplished that day, what we need to do the next day. Maybe there are worries that are keeping us up at night. So trying to do a practice of mindfulness meditation really helps quiet it down and give people a sense of ease and well-being prior to sleep. I think there was something else. Oh, and then supplements. So there are some supplements that can help people with sleep. Melatonin is a supplement that can help with sleep. The doses are typically from 3 milligrams to 10 milligrams. Be careful the first time you take it because some people will experience rebound the next day, which means they don't fully or aren't fully able to wake up. So my recommendation is to really start with a low dose if you think that you want to try it, and slowly go up, and not take the 10 milligrams all at once. Valerian root is another supplement that can help, and ashwagandha is another supplement, which is an adaptogen. It actually helps the body's adaptive response to stress. It helps buffer cortisol levels and helps also in that way bring about a feeling of ease and well-being, and to help promote sleep. It also helps with mood regulation and has been shown to support more steady mood, particularly when it comes to anxiety. So those are my big tips for sleep. The last thing I'm going to say is that, a lot of times we do this intentionally. So not everyone necessarily has a sleep problem, like chronic insomnia for some reason. But they not purposefully, but they negotiate out of sleep. Like it's the only quiet time you have, and I totally get that. So kids are asleep, maybe your husband's asleep, and you're like, yay, I get to do something for myself. Or you're watching something on TV, or it's the only time you get to watch TV, or you want to read a great book, all of which are like great things. But let's not take away from sleep. We shouldn't compromise our sleep in order to do these other things. Sleep should be part of the equation when we are creating our daily routines. So don't do it. You need it. Your body will thank you for it, not only in the short term, but in the long term. There's a couple questions. I think there's one question. Yeah, so melatonin doesn't work. This is so hard when we start talking about other medications or drugs for sleep. And someone is asking, Daphne, thank you, asking about Benadryl or Ambien or gabapentin, all of which can help bring about sleep. But we have to be careful of a few things. One is the issue of rebound. So like with Benadryl, for example, there's a lot of rebound that happens, which is not being able to fall asleep. Not able to fully wake up the next morning. So that's something that you have to consider. And then another thing that happens with some of these medications is that in the long run, it promotes insomnia. So that if you ever wean on it, you're even in a worse place than you were before. So you have to be careful. I would really caution against chronic use of these medications, although sometimes they're necessary, and I get that. One thing with gabapentin, which can be very effective for sleep, is that it has other negative effects. It can cause daytime somnolence or sleepiness and rebound. Gabapentin can also be a weight gaining drug. So when it comes to weight gain, it's always multifactorial. And here I'm telling you that sleep deprivation might promote weight gain. And then gabapentin, a drug that you can use for sleep, might promote weight gain. And yeah, it sucks. It's kind of a catch-22, but that's the reality. So some things that you should be mindful of. So I hope this was helpful. I hope that you guys set up a new regimen tonight and get good sleep. And this video will be saved. I would love if you would tag your friends if you think that it would be of help to them. We have a lot of resources on the website. If you want to sign up for the newsletter, weekly newsletter, you can get health tips from me there. You can follow me on my Facebook page or on Instagram, follow our group. And I think that's it. So thanks again. And I look forward to talking to you guys again next week. We're going to try out this time at 4:30 Tuesday afternoons, and hopefully we can get more engagement. Take care.